In a significant escalation of tensions between the United States and China, the U.S. government has added dozens of Chinese entities, including units of the technology giant Inspur, to its export restrictions list. This move reflects ongoing concerns about national security and competition in advanced technologies, particularly in the realms of artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. The announcement made on March 26, 2025 underscores the evolving landscape of U.S.-China relations, which have become increasingly strained amid geopolitical rivalries and security concerns. The export restrictions are part of a broader strategy by the U.S. to curb China's influence and capabilities in critical sectors. The U.S. Department of Commerce highlighted that these measures are necessary to protect American national security interests and to prevent sensitive technologies from being used in ways that could undermine U.S. security. Inspur, one of China's largest cloud computing and data center service providers, has been implicated due to its potential involvement in projects related to surveillance and data management that could pose risks to U.S. interests. This latest round of restrictions occurs against the backdrop of an annual U.S. intelligence report that categorizes China as the foremost military threat to American interests globally. The report, presented by U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, outlines how Beijing's coercive pressure tactics, particularly regarding Taiwan, alongside its extensive cyber operations against U.S. targets, signal a growing challenge to U.S. national security. China presents the most comprehensive and robust military threat to U.S. national security, the report asserts, highlighting that the Chinese military is making steady progress in capabilities that could be employed in any attempt to seize Taiwan. The report further emphasizes that China will likely continue to expand its coercive and subversive malign influence activities as it seeks to weaken U.S. influence both domestically and internationally. In response to these findings, Chinese officials have vehemently rejected the characterization of their military ambitions, labeling the U.S. report as biased and accusing it of exaggerating the perceived threat from China. Foreign Ministry spokesman Gui Jiaquan commented, "We have no intention of surpassing anyone or replacing anyone," underscoring Beijing's stance that its military developments are defensive in nature. Moreover, the intelligence assessment assessed that while China's leadership under President Xi Jinping is focused on consolidating domestic power, this approach may hinder its ability to navigate complex international challenges effectively. The report suggests that China is more cautious in its approach compared to other adversaries like Russia and North Korea, which may allow for potential avenues of dialogue, albeit fraught with skepticism on both sides. In a related development, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has called for enhanced communication between the U.S. and China to manage mutual concerns. During a meeting with Evan Greenberg, Executive Vice Chair of the National Committee on United States-China Relations, Wang emphasized the importance of dialogue based on equality and mutual respect to address legitimate concerns from both nations. He noted that cooperation is essential in navigating the complexities of U.S.-China relations, which he described as the most important bilateral relationship in the world. As these developments unfold, the U.S. and China appear to be at a crossroads. The current trajectory suggests an increasing focus on security and technological competition, with both nations poised to fortify their positions. The implications of these actions will likely resonate in global markets and geopolitical alliances as countries navigate the shifting landscape of U.S.-China relations. Looking ahead, stakeholders in both nations will need to balance competition with cooperation, aiming to avoid miscalculations that could lead to broader conflicts. The coming months will be critical in determining how these relationships evolve and how both nations manage their respective ambitions on the world stage. In a world increasingly characterized by economic uncertainty and geopolitical tension, the return of Donald Trump to the White House has sent ripples through global markets and prompted a reassessment of international trade dynamics. As Trump embarks on his second term, the implications of his policies are becoming clearer, with analysts warning that the current global economic environment may be more fragile than ever. This sentiment is echoed by Stephen Roach, a prominent economist who argues that the Trump shock is akin to a full-blown crisis threatening to unravel the rules-based international order that has underpinned global trade for decades. The current global economic landscape is dominated by the intertwined fates of the United States and China, which together account for over 40% of the world's GDP growth since 2010. However, Roach posits that the U.S., once seen as a stabilizing force, has now become a source of instability. America is now the problem, not the solution, he asserts, highlighting how Trump's protectionist policies and nationalistic rhetoric have created significant risks for an already sluggish global economy. The erosion of trust in U.S. leadership is likely to have lasting effects not just in international relations but also on domestic economic decision-making. Businesses faced with the uncertainty stemming from Trump's trade policies are increasingly hesitant to commit to long-term investments. Roach notes that this uncertainty could freeze dynamic segments of the economy as businesses struggle to navigate a landscape marked by unpredictable tariffs and shifting trade relationships. In China, while the government may attempt to mitigate the initial impacts of Trump's policies through state-directed measures, the long-term effects on its export-led growth model could be deeply damaging, especially as domestic demand remains weak. In the midst of this turmoil, Trump has signaled his intention to impose a new wave of tariffs, dubbed Liberation Day, on April 2nd. This announcement has left markets on edge as the potential for retaliatory measures from trading partners looms large. Reports suggest that Trump may narrow the scope of these tariffs to focus on a select group of countries with unfavorable trade balances with the U.S. However, the uncertainty surrounding the specifics of these tariffs is causing significant market volatility, with auto manufacturers like GM and Ford experiencing stock dips in response to the anticipated duties. As Trump's trade war escalates, it is important to recognize the broader implications for U.S. China relations. Despite initial signs of goodwill, such as the invitation extended to Chinese President Xi Jinping to attend Trump's inauguration, the specter of renewed tariffs has left both governments wary. Analysts warn that the economic landscape in China is precarious, with high youth unemployment and a struggling property market, making it particularly vulnerable to the repercussions of a renewed trade conflict. The impact of Trump's policies is not confined to the U.S. and China. Global markets are reacting to the potential fallout. The European Union has already announced countermeasures to Trump's tariffs, and countries like Canada are bracing for economic repercussions. As Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has pointedly remarked, Trump's aggressive trade stance poses a threat not just to Canadian independence but to the fabric of international relations. Looking ahead, the economic challenges posed by Trump's administration may have far-reaching consequences. With a breakdown in trust and the potential for a trade war that could rival the one experienced in 2018, global markets are likely to remain volatile. As businesses and governments alike grapple with these uncertainties, the need for a coherent and stable international trade framework becomes ever more pressing. In conclusion, the unfolding economic landscape under Trump's second term could redefine global trade relationships and reshape the future of international cooperation. As both the U.S. and China navigate these turbulent waters, the world will be watching closely, hoping for a resolution that steers clear of the chaos of a full-blown trade war while readying for the possibility of continued strife. The coming months could prove pivotal in determining the future trajectory of the global economy as nations adapt to an era of heightened competition and uncertainty. In a rapidly evolving global landscape, the United States and China find themselves at the forefront of a high-stakes technological and military rivalry. Recent assessments from U.S. intelligence officials have underscored China's position as the most significant military and cyber threat to the United States, a development that has raised alarms within the U.S. government and military circles. As tensions continue to escalate, particularly in space and advanced technology sectors, the implications for both nations and the world at large are profound. A report by the U.S. intelligence community published on March 26, 2025 outlines the growing concern regarding China's capabilities and intentions. It states China poses the biggest military and cyber threat to the U.S., actively developing its military forces and expanding its cyber operations. This stark warning reflects an acknowledgement of China's rapid advancements in military technologies as well as its increasingly assertive posture on the global stage. As part of this dynamic, the Chinese military has taken a keen interest in the U.S. satellite constellation Starlink, developed by Elon Musk's SpaceX. A recent analysis from the RAND Corporation highlights that the People's Liberation Army (PLA) perceives Starlink as a critical vulnerability for the U.S. This has led to the PLA adopting a strategy that could involve more provocative operations in space as they attempt to exploit what they see as a gap in U.S. capabilities. The report emphasizes that the U.S. Space Force must prepare for potential provocations, noting that the PLA probably believes it can prosecute more provocative operations against the U.S. without risk of escalation. The RAND Corporation's findings suggest that the PLA's response to Starlink is rooted in a fear of U.S. dominance in low Earth orbit, with the Chinese military prioritizing the development of its own satellite networks as a countermeasure. The report articulates that until these networks are fully operational, Starlink remains an asymmetric vulnerability that could be targeted by China. In tandem with military developments, the U.S. has intensified its export control measures against Chinese technology firms, citing concerns that these companies are seeking advanced U.S. know-how in areas such as supercomputing and artificial intelligence for military applications. On the same day as the intelligence report, the U.S. government announced that it had added over 50 Chinese firms to its export control list, including notable players like the Beijing Academy of Artificial Intelligence. These firms are accused of attempting to leverage U.S. technologies for military purposes, a move that has drawn strong denunciations from China, claiming it undermines global supply chains and violates international norms. China's foreign ministry condemned the U.S. actions, labeling them as unjust suppression of Chinese enterprises. The ministry's spokesperson Gui Jiaquan asserted that these export controls seriously violate international law and threaten the security and stability of international trade relations. This tit-for-tat approach underscores the increasing friction between the two economic superpowers as both sides engage in a technological arms race. Moreover, the U.S. has faced criticism for its own military provocations, particularly concerning the deployment of missile systems that have generated significant concern in Beijing. The Wall Street Journal reported that these developments have provoked Chinese ire as they view U.S. military capabilities in the Asia-Pacific region as direct threats to their national security. As we look to the future, the ongoing competition between the U.S. and China in military and technological domains is poised to escalate. Both nations are investing heavily in advanced technologies, whether in artificial intelligence, space capabilities, or cyber warfare. The outcome of this rivalry will not only shape bilateral relations but also have far-reaching consequences for global stability and security. As tensions rise, the world watches closely, aware that the stakes in this high-tech Cold War could redefine international power dynamics for generations to come.